Hey everybody, here is a Dell Octoplex 755 desktop computer, and over here is my Dell Inspiron 1525 notebook. Most of the time on Q Computer Channel, when it comes to doing overviews of computers, many of those videos have to do with part systems from the Google Computer Works store, because that is a common source of my parts to do rebuilt and refurbished PCs. There's also another way that I get computers for parts and or refurbishing. It's called the trade-in discount, and it's something that I offer on my refurbished computers. For those who don't already know, I do sell refurbished PCs and rebuilt computers for decent prices. Now, let's say somebody brings in a computer for service, or they have an older computer that they are wanting to get rid of and are looking for something better. The trade-in discount enables the person to get a refurbished PC at a reduced cost, and I end up with a computer to use for parts and refurbishing. Some cases people will bring in computers that are relatively old, or not extremely old in some cases, and the computers actually need a lot of work done to them. For example, with this Octoplex 755, it needed to reinstall Windows because it was a hand-me-down computer. The computer was from a corporate LAN, had a corporate installed Windows XP Professional. It was designed for a domain, and had a bunch of software and a bunch of junk on it that needed to be removed. And probably the best way to do it is just to reinstall Windows. And this computer is actually a Vista machine. It has a Vista key on it, and that's what I would have done. But the reinstall was not the only thing that was needed. This computer also had a very small hard drive, only 80 gig hard drive, SATA hard drive, and only a gig of RAM. And that combination is not very good for, let's say, Windows Vista. The hard drive, I mean, it's okay, but memory is a bit low. The amount of memory in this thing was a bit low for Vista. So we would have been looking at a bigger hard drive, more memory, plus that Windows reinstall. It probably would have cost maybe $160 or more dollars. I charge $60 for reinstalls. A new hard drive would cost you about $50. We're already talking about $140 right there. Plus the memory, DDR2. Let's see, 2 gigs would cost you additional $30 to $40, maybe tops that. Been looking at a lot of money. And I just happen to have a computer, a refurbished PC for sale with Windows 7, 300 gig hard drive, dual core CPU, and 2 gigs of RAM for $150. And the person who originally brought in this computer to have it fixed was interested in that computer, so I offered my trade-in discount. I offered $30 off for trading in this computer, which needed work done to it, for that refurbished PC. So she got the computer for $120, a rather nice computer at that, for $120, and she got rid of her old computer that she didn't know what to do with. So now I have a decent computer for parts. And let's go and have a look at that computer. And which, by the way, that trade-in discount is how I got this Dell. I'll talk about that one here shortly. And of course, normally when I'm looking over computers, probably one of the first things I mention would be how much I paid for it at the Google Computer Works store. But of course, this is a trade-in. And another advantage of many trade-in systems is that I can get working computers and non-working computers. This one does work. Here's the hard drive, 80 gig SATA hard drive. The memory is up under these cables. And here's what I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to be pulling the hard drive, the CPU, and the Vista key off, and I'm going to return the majority of what's left over to Google Computer Works. The board is fine, and I figured it'd make a nice donation because there is a high demand for the motherboards in these systems. They tend to have bad capacitors on a regular basis, so I figured somebody would definitely be wanting one of these motherboards, and of course Google can make some money off of it. Okay, here's that hard drive. Just pulls right out. The whole cage pulls out, and have a look at this. It's got a fan on there. Hard drive is fan cooled. I like that. At least they did have some common sense with their BTX systems. This motherboard has no bad caps. They're Rubicons. Yeah, I see some, what I believe are Chemicons on there too. None are bulging because they haven't gotten overheated yet. Obviously, over time they would get overheated. So here's that fan again. It's just like a, it's really close, similar to the fan that's in a laptop. Yeah, look at that. Not sure what the voltage is on it. It's probably a 12-volt fan. So there is the hard drive. Cage and all. And as I mentioned, I'm going. Actually, no, I'll keep that set of cable in. I'm gonna keep the other one. I'm gonna keep this cable in the machine. This system also has a Core 2 Duo processor. Go ahead and save that. Normally I would actually refurbish a computer like this, but the thing is, I believe I mentioned this before. The thing about refurbishing computers like this, if something goes wrong with the motherboard or something, it's going to be difficult to find a replacement. And that is not the kind of situation I like to be in, so when I refurbish computers, I try to stick with the standard ATX or some BTX systems. Dell systems are not really standardized. I mean, they're BTX. This is a BTX, but it is not 100% standard. Like, for instance, Dell likes to have their own proprietary buttons and LEDs on the front of the case. While, let's say, Gateway still has a standardized design. So my refurbished computers are mainly standard ATX or BTX. And here is a CPU. And of course, it's an Intel 775. But first, let me go ahead and wipe that off so you can actually see the name on the processor. Okay, here's a better look at that CPU. It is a Core 2 Duo E4500 2.2 gig CPU. Not bad. I'm going to pull it out. Try to give you guys a better view. There's our CPU. Of course, I don't do many Intel builds, but these are nice to have for whenever I do come across a nice 775 motherboard. Go ahead and save this CPU. I have a pretty good stash of processors up here from both AMD and Intel. Junk load of hard drives, floppy drives, and card readers, and heat sinks and more junk. Okay, I'll go ahead and close this back. Reattach the lock. What I'm gonna do here is I need to place something between the base of this heat sink. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe this paste off here, because I don't want those pins to get contaminated. And I don't have one of those plastic covers for the Intel 775 socket. Most of my builds are AMD, so I don't have many Intel accessories. Or at least for the new Intels. I got a bunch of old Intel stuff from the 478 and 370 era. Okay. That's a decent heat pipe core. I'm sure it's put to good use too in this little bitty system. I mentioned earlier how the capacitors in these computers tend to fail. And these are good quality Rubicon caps. The reason why they fail is because of the design of the cooling system. It takes in cool air from out through here, cools off the CPU, which I'm sure runs pretty hot because of a smart fan, and the roasting hot air comes out of here, and that gets pushed into the rest of the system, such as your motherboard and chipset, all that kind of stuff. All that gets roasted. Your capacitors fail. Just think of that. These capacitors are rated for 105 degrees Celsius operation, and for those caps to fail, well, of course the caps put off heat themselves, but the surrounding heat just heats them up good enough to where they bulge and fail. And this is a pretty common problem with these Dells, these little slim Dells. And it's funny, there's a simple fix for this. Just take the cooling fan in reverse direction. That way it sucks air through here and blows out the back. See, the only other fan that's sucking air out of the system is the power supply fan. And of course that spins very slow unless the power supply gets hot in it. Power supply has to get really hot before that fan actually speeds up to full speed, in most power supplies anyway. A lot of enthusiast grade power supplies may actually crank the fan up a little earlier. But anyways, yeah, I'll go ahead and reattach this cooler. I'll go ahead and take it out. Take the hard drive out of its cage. Well, let me tell you what's funny about this hard drive. It's not the factory original drive to this computer. There's that fan, 12-volt fan. The hard drive was actually from an HP product, either HP or Compaq. Come from an HP DC7700 small form factor base unit, judging by the sticker. So it come from another business computer. Look at all that dust. I'd say it's not very good for the hard drive, but anyways, there's a hard drive. Let's also get that RAM out too. Even though it is only 1 gig, it's still memory. The more I have, the better. I can stick 4 of these into a refurb system and have 2 gigs. Samsung memory. So 2 times 512. Now we'll go ahead and reinsert this laptop DVD drive. And the thing is, with these laptop DVD drives, they're not as reliable as their actual desktop cousins, the 5 1/4 inch versions. But yet, most of these slim desktop computers nowadays have these really thin drives. And it's funny, the C drive in my Dell Inspiron 1525 was actually a pull from one of these slim Dells. One of these slim Dell desktops. There we go. A little aggravating to get in there. Anyways, that's back in. So I pulled out the CPU, the hard drive, and the memory. The rest of it is going to Google Computer Works. Okay, now that I have finished parting out that desktop, I'm just going to have a look at this laptop, my Inspiron 1525. They're going to tell you a story about this one. A woman brought this computer in. Well, she actually emailed me ahead of time mentioning that she did not want a laptop anymore. She was more interested in having a desktop, because she'd just rather have a desktop over a laptop. And I offered the trade-in discount to her. She said she'd bring a laptop in and she'd come have a look at my refurbished PCs for sale. And of course, back then, all the refurbished computers I had for sale were systems with Windows XP. Most of them were priced between $80 to $120. And this computer here originally come to me with some work need to be done to it. The original installed Windows Vista was still on the computer, run very, very slow. This computer only had 1 gig of RAM, a Pentium dual-core CPU, and an 80 gig hard drive. Vista Home Premium. So the computer run extremely slow, and that was the reason why she brought the thing in. And so I was kind of surprised when she brought in a 2008 model Dell laptop to me. So basically, I went through my little, procedure of, offering repairs to this laptop, upgrading the memory, reinstalling Windows, saying I can make it much faster. But she was interested in a desktop, so I offered a trade-in discount. She was interested in a computer that was $80, that cost $80. I offered her $40 for this laptop, so she bought a computer for $40 with the trade-in discount, and I got this computer here. I tell you, to be honest with you, I was very surprised, because back then all I had, well, actually I was using a Dell Latitude D630. I had only used it for about a month or so, and I had Windows 7 installed on it, and it runs 7 pretty good. Before that, I was using a little bitty Acer Spiral netbook. So being able to have this multimedia laptop was very nice, because that's what I've been looking for, was a multimedia laptop for, school, play, that kind of stuff when I'm out on the go. So basically, I've done some upgrades to this laptop. I've replaced the CPU with actually the processor out of the Latitude D630. I did a swap. I took the Pentium dual core out of this one and put it in the D630, and I took the Core 2 Duo T9300 out of that computer and installed it in this one. This computer is extremely easy to upgrade. Just one door to remove to get access to your Wi-Fi cards, your CPU, and your cooler and memory. It's all in one door. And of course a separate slide out spot for the hard drive. This computer here was made to be upgraded, so I applied some upgrades to it. Not only did I upgrade the CPU, I replaced the battery because the original battery was not in very good state of condition. I bought a battery off of Amazon for about $30. Then I bought 4 gigs of memory off of Newegg for about $50. It's DDR2, so that's why it's a bit more expensive. It was a good G-Skill memory. And then I took a DV burner drive out of one of those slim Dell desktops, changed the faceplates over, and installed it into this computer. So now this computer has a DV burner. I don't use it that often, but it's there. And the most recent upgrade I've done was I replaced the hard drive. Well, actually, originally I took the hard drive out of the netbook and installed it into this computer, because I wasn't going to sell it for 80 gigs. And that time I had 160 gigs, but that was still a pretty slow drive, and I wanted more space. So Newegg had a 500 gig Seagate hybrid solid state drive on sale for I think $80 with free shipping. So I bought that and installed it into this computer. This computer is a whole lot faster, so this thing performs extremely well. I featured it in quite a few of my videos. So anyways, yeah, that's what it showed y'all, the other way I get computers for a decent price. With the trade-in discount offer, people are happy to get a reduced price on refurbished computers, and I'm happy to get computers for parts and refurbishing, or in this case, a computer for myself. Anyways, any questions or comments? feel free to ask, and thanks for watching.